Good day. Today, we will be discussing about our work, the Art Podcast, and their chosen subject types are portrait, landscape, and nature. And their chosen artworks are American Gothic by Grant Wood, View of Avisu West by Paul Cézanne, and Irises by Vincent van Gogh. I'm Eileen Joy G. Arquero, and you are now on the first part of the Art Podcast. On this part, we will be talking about one of Grant Wood's famous painting, the American Gothic. American Gothic was a very personal painting for American artist Grant Wood. The architecture of a small house in his Midwestern hometown of Eldon, Iowa, inspired Grant Wood to paint American Gothic in 1930. Artist Grant Wood uses the house to paint a satire of modern American culture, what he perceives as an almost laughable and somewhat off-kilter knockoff of the real thing. According to Wood, there is satire in it, but only as there is satire in any realistic statement. These are types of people I have known all my life. I tried to characterize them truthfully, to make them more like themselves than they were in actual life. Artist Grant Wood might have thought his satire of small-town Midwestern America was funny and right on target. But many art critics initially found his painting American Gothic to be mean-spirited and insulting toward the simple, a low blow toward the hardworking men and women of the Midwest living through the tough economic times during the Great Depression.
Hello, this is Francesca, and you are now on the second part of the Art Podcast. On this series, we will be talking about one of Cézanne's underrated work. The View of Avisu West by Paul Cézanne was created between 1873 and 1875 and is admired for its wide open spaces and swirling green colors. The work was produced during a time of change in Cézanne's career, when he was experimenting with his color palette beyond his usual tempestuous dark choices. The painting was painted when Cézanne was staying with his good friend Dr. Paul Gachet in the 1870s. Consequently, the doctor invited the artist to come and stay at his house and paint the surrounding landscape. Cézanne was encouraged to use lighter colors when working on this piece, creating swirling, bright impression of nature. Cézanne believed that nature should be shown as accurately as possible.
Hello, I'm Angelica Flores, and you are now on the third part of the Art Podcast. On this part of this series, we will be talking about one of the most famous painter, Vincent van Gogh, and his painting, Irises. Irises was made with oil on canvas on 1889. Nature has been the greatest inspiration to see beauty in the world and draw attention to some of the most pressing matters in human and environmental affairs. Irises is a nature type of subject of art as it focuses on the view of specific natural elements, which is the irises, a kind of flower in the real world. Van Gogh struggled with mental illness and was sent to the asylum in Saint-Rémy for treatment. It was created during his stay at an asylum in France. Irises was inspired by the flower gardens that encompasses the hospital. Van Gogh used nature and the walls around him as inspiration to paint more than 130 paintings. Irises is one of Van Gogh's paintings that has a stillness and beauty not seen in many of his later works. His use of unique angles, of views, and strong lines were very apparent. In addition, the element of dark interiors in his flowers showed the great influence Japanese wood blocking played in his works. Vincent van Gogh is a Dutch post-impressionist painter who is among the most famous and influential figures in the history of Western art. He made simple things like this flower have a life of their own on his canvases. Irises in particular being a striking painting of life and air, you can feel the flowers breathing in this work. It is indeed one of the best paintings of nature in the world that any man can see and appreciate. The painting has been bought and sold a dozen times. In 1990, it was purchased by the J. Paul Getty Museum in Malibu, California, where the artwork remains to the present day. Thank you for listening.